Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Thank you, Gertrude. I love what you've built here because you are really making room for the real stories. And you are also in the future, being in Australia. I'm in Georgia in the US. So you'll have to let me know how the future is. My name is Meredith Ochoa. And like I said, I'm based out of Georgia, Macon, Georgia currently. And I am an award-winning author, podcaster, artist, specifically another effing artist, maybe the most honest name you'll hear from a creator. And honesty is a big part of not only my story, but my healing. I'm also a professor at Mercer University, and I'm most known for healing myself from almost 20 years of debilitating endometriosis pain. And I turned that healing into art, into a book, into a podcast, into a whole philosophy about what pain actually is and what it is trying to do for you. So when people ask how I got through it, I tell them the truth very literally. In order to live, I had to learn how to die. And that may sound a bit dramatic, but it's very true. And it started when my period started. Every 28 days, debilitating cramps. I'm talking waking up in pools of sweat and blood, going unconscious from the shock of the pain, fainting, emergency room visits when I could afford them. And upon visiting the doctor, I was told, even after surgery, after prescription, birth controls, all that was failing me, that it was all in my head, to just have a baby and maybe it'll go away, to take birth control, take ibuprofen, even to become a man as a solution to Western medicine solution to getting rid of period cramps, to take drugs that would make you essentially become a man. Unfortunately, it's not unique to me. 1 in 10 women has endometriosis, and I think it's even higher now. 1 in 3 women has pelvic pain. About over 600,000 hysterectomies are performed in the US every year. That's just the US. Roughly 1 uterus per minute, with over 70% recognized as medically unnecessary. And we just accept that as part of being a woman. So when I realized, only in hindsight, what I realized in hindsight is I actually became grateful for every single one of those false statements that those doctors told me, because it pissed me off enough to discover the only way out, to go in. Because suffering only really happens when we don't meet our pain, when we deny that it's there, when we bury it to be liked and approved of by others or for politically correct reasons. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is what is truly optional. And I have lived this from facing and not facing my own pain with 17 years of endometriosis, and now about 5 years healed. And I want to be honest about something. A lot of what I was healing wasn't physical. It manifested itself as physical, as we all know, but there was sexual trauma. There were patterns in my body that had been there long before I had language for them. Inherited dynamics, the kind that teach you to abandon yourself in order to survive in your own family. I'm sure we all know a little bit about that. And what I eventually understood is that endometriosis and a lot of chronic pain conditions in women often lives at the intersection of the physical and, of course, the unprocessed. The body holds what the mind refuses to look at, and it will keep sending the message until you're willing to receive it. It's kind of like whenever you charge your credit card, you're still getting the purchase, but you're going to pay at another time. Same thing when you go around any kind of truth, when you try to treat something not at the root cause, you're going to pay for it in a different way later. So I started to become connected to myself through Reiki, through changing my diet, through beginning to understand what healing actually means. And what I learned is that true healing is a return to your own authority. It's not about not having any pain or having all your shit together, but the capacity to be with yourself, not having your shit together, changing the relationship to pain, changing the relationship to yourself. True healing doesn't need for you to believe in it or for an authority figure to deem it okay for it to exist and still work. Only half-truths and lies require your belief in them to have any power at all. Healing is, for the large part, spiritual. It is a choice, and it is dependent entirely on the free will of the individual to actually enter their own path. So upon dying one too many times, I started doing my own research, real research on the infradian rhythm, the 28-day hormonal cycle that the entire Western medical system essentially ignores. The system was designed, which they won't tell you this in the doctor's office, but it's designed for the 24-hour testosterone clock. And they still, to this day, are not required to perform clinical trials on women in their menstruating years. They actually perform them on postmenopausal women because their hormonal cycles are more similar to men, to the short circuit battery. Testosterone peaks in the morning, 9 a.m., drops off by 5 p.m., hence our 9 to 5 workday. That's actually the man's clock. Women are long circuit batteries. We run on a completely different rhythm. And when I started understanding that, I realized my body was never broken. It was trying to operate in a system that was never built for it. And it was one of the messages my pain and endometriosis was trying to tell me. I am a biological woman, and I began to honor that, to be proud of that, instead of trying to make it fit into a man's world. I started to see my cycle as my superpower, something unique to me, something to be celebrated. I changed what I ate, of course, what I'm consuming in all areas. I changed how I moved in all areas. I changed my relationship to my own cycle and my own perspective on time. And I healed naturally, holistically, after almost 20 years. I kept the desire and I gave up the struggle. And then something else happened. I decided to literally live my art as a creative. So at the time in 2021, I was looking at the crypto art world. Beeple had just sold his Everyday's piece for $69 million, or no, $169 million, I believe. An everyday project, one image every single day for 13 years, or for 5,000 days, excuse me. And the world went insane for it. And I thought, of course, another everyday project, the 24-hour clock, the man's clock. I'm so tired of everyone got to get everything done by the end of the day. What would it look like if I did not a piece of art every day, but every phase. So the feminine response to Beeple's project. So I created Every Phase, a 13-year art series running 2021, and it's still ongoing through 2033, where I create one piece for each phase of my hormonal cycle every month in real time. Follicular, ovulatory, luteal, menstrual. So my body is the calendar, and I literally live inside the artwork. One of my favorite mediums is cyanotype, a sun activated photographic process, and I use the sun and water as my darkroom. Ancient, chemical, alive, and more recently, I've been combining it with Vanta Black, the darkest material on earth, and gold leaf, because that's what healing actually looks like. That amount of contrast, holding the darkest dark and the brightest light in the same frame, because they are that. And so the first year of that series became my book, Face Your Shit, Heal Yourself, award-winning augmented reality. You can scan the pages and the art comes to life. And it also became my podcast, which is still ongoing as well, which is more of the science.
Wow, what an incredible journey you've been on, Meredith. It's
Thank
so
you.
sad to hear, though, that so many women suffer for years before they find a solution to what's actually going on for them.
Yeah, it is very sad. It's also by design. It's how and this is such a larger conversation, but it's how our system operates. The clients are more interested in creating clients instead of cures, instead of healing.
Yeah.
The goal is that repeat system. But I do feel like, especially recently, and especially in this fire horse year, that is changing with conversations like these,
Yeah.
with people are beginning to catch on to these strange autoimmune diseases and
Mhm.
really debt-based solutions like I was talking about earlier.
Now, it sounds to me like you tuned in to something in yourself that your body was telling you. What did your body try to tell you that you had initially ignored?
So, what I had initially ignored was really mainly out of fear. I was scared of my own body because I never really knew also when the freight train of pain was going to come. I
Yeah.
didn't understand my period. A large portion or a real antidote to fear is education, is just knowledge. When you
Mm.
understand and you can know something, you can understand it, takes away a lot of that fear.
Yeah.
So that was the main reason, like, I don't know if I'm gonna die. I don't know if I'm gonna live. I don't know if,
Mm.
this will be the last time that I see people, if I've lost jobs because of my period pain and missing too much work. There was a lot of factors, but on a deeper level, my pain was telling me to see myself for who I really was,
Mm.
right? And a lot of the other layers that I briefly mentioned earlier are what came about from listening to that, to realize that my pain is really everything that was unrealized and unrecognized about me. That's why it's experienced as pain.
Mm. So, what was that turning point where you chose to trust yourself over external authority? What was the straw that broke the camel's back?
So there were many. I would say there was not just one.
Yeah.
I do, um, I will say, upon dying too many times, because it is true, there was one time that I had crossed over to the other side, and I had done this before, but for whatever reason, I think I was, like, in a Home Depot or something,
Right.
and my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and I had, like, passed out, and I was like, you see the light, you see the hands, and I'm like, I'm ready to go at this point, and they're like, "No, that's not." They're like, get back. You know?
Option. Wow.
So I would say that is a standout moment for
Yeah.
me where it's like I really have to, whatever it is, come, however big, bad, ugly, no matter what, I only have 2 choices: to
Mm,
literally just continue living this pattern and probably end up in the hospital or die or worse, or because people have died from endometriosis, or
mhm.
just actually look at what this is. No matter how scary it is, at least I can say that I looked. And so
So,
that's what
what
I
does befriending your pain actually look like in practice?
That's a great question. So I will say also for those people and for myself included, the path that I took, you need to do what's best for you at the time too. So what that may look like is maybe you still need to take painkillers, heavy narcotics, what have you, whatever, just to be able to sit and listen. So it's actually there's a technique, I'll use this metaphor, a chiropractor actually taught me, and I took it on and kind of made it my own. It's called from ice to water to air to nothing. So I would imagine, and this is a very small example, but I would imagine because all pain is formed from resistance. If we don't have resistance, we don't have pain. So I would imagine it as like squeezing the ice, right? And I'm
Yes.
looking into and I'm seeing what I'm asking. What do you need from me? What is this about? I'm sitting down with it as a friend. And then the friend becomes water. The friend becomes relaxed, right? The friend.
Yes.
And this is a whole also intuitive conversation as well, especially on your period. As women, our right and our left brain, the hemispheres of our brain, are more communicative at that time than any
Mm,
other time. So we are
that's true.
primed for psychic messages like that. It's literally the time you want to do that.
Wow.
And so that's a small example. And then every cycle, I would go back into the same space and I would go and sit with my pain and we'd look at something else and they'd say, "Oh, there was that time. Oh, well, there was this time. Oh,
Yeah.
well, you abandoned yourself here." And so I began learning about myself from the places that I deemed unwanted.
Hmm. That's quite fascinating. So, what was the biggest myths that women are being told about their bodies, do you think?
I think one of the biggest myths is that period pain is normal, is that it's just part of being a woman, that even beyond periods, all the cycles of women are just like, "Oh, it's just a burden. It's just, you know, just part of being a woman, like this cross to bear." It's absolutely false. It's your superpower.
Mhm.
The taboo around talking about menopause, talking about periods, talking about, childbirth trauma, all of that is really what has our culture in the place that it is in today, because we all came from someone with a period, every single person on this planet.
True.
So it is sacred because it is how we all got here. And it's something I've said before. Instead of the birth of a child, your period is the birth of your truth. It is true. It's what's true for your body in that cycle
Mhm.
of what you need to let go of on a biological, as well. It's all connected, emotional, spiritual level, and what you're retaining.
Mhm. Man. So, how can women begin reconnecting with their inner authority today, do you think?
Women can begin connecting with your inner authority. And I know this is going to sound maybe difficult because we live in such a noisy culture, right?
Yes.
But the only way you can listen is right when it's silent, when it's more quiet. So
Yeah.
you get below the noise, turn off, stop the scrolling, sit, just sit with yourself. Sit with yourself with an uncomfortable feeling, with whatever it is. And you will very quickly begin to hear your inner authority kind of voice. And I think most
Mhm.
women, when you start to pick up on this inner authority, it may be deemed as negative or like, the voice that's maybe it's not politically correct, but it's usually right. And you're like, oh, I knew that. I knew that. That is your intuition, but it's also your inner authority, knowing that you get to decide. You get to decide, not the person wearing the lab coat gets to decide who you are. You get to decide who you are, not what's between your legs, not what cycle in life you're in, not your age, not where you're from. You. So that voice is like a representative of that truth, that it's
Yeah,
you. No one can tell you who you are but you.
yourself. Yeah. So, what role do cycles, the menstrual, emotional, life cycles, play in our power as women?
The menstrual and the emotional life cycles? What role
Yes.
do they play?
Uh-huh.
I mean, well, it's required for life. It's required for, our men biohack all the time, where all of these things you see, like cold plunging and intermittent fasting and all of these things, of course they're wonderful things, but they're all of those results are based off of people that have a 24-hour hormonal cycle. With
Yeah.
women, we're required to look at things through the lens of starting to live like women. So our
Mhm.
clock is not 24-hour, it is 28-day. We still complete the 24-hour cycle just over a longer period. So if you look at your energy in terms like that, then in follicular, you're going to be trying new things because your brain and body are primed for that. In ovulatory, you're going to be doing podcast interviews or talking because you're more communicative and your body's primed for that and for attraction. Luteal, you're going to get things done because your body's primed for that because it's preparing to get things done before the bleed, before menstrual. And then
Yes.
menstrual, you want to reassess and re-look everything with a re. So you're not carrying with you a bunch of crap into the next cycle. So cycles, just like the cycles of the earth, that's mirrored in our bodies, and it's so necessary. Everything works off of cycles, is required for growth.
Yeah. That is so true. Oh my gosh. So, how has your healing impacted the women around you, your family, your clients, and your community?
Yeah, I know my healing has not only impacted my own ancestral line, because when we heal ourselves, something I talk about in my work a lot, we are healing the entire line because of our connection, especially as women, we carry mitochondrial DNA. That's how our ancestry is traced, not through the man. It's for men, it's going to be traced through his mother and her mother and her mother and her mother. All that's how ancestry is traced. So in the West, we live very differently because the woman takes the man's name and all of that. But
Yeah.
on a biological truth level, it is actually women that carry the lineage, the whole mitochondrial DNA, every single woman of that line.
Mhm.
So that's something very specific to women. And that's why I say that statement is even more true for us. And a lot of these issues with period pain, with endometriosis, with my own body were inherited
Yeah.
from my mother, from her mother before her. I remember my grandmother said once, completely harmless, but it showed me how she viewed things is like, oh, well, the good thing is when you decide to have a baby, it's not even going to hurt at all because it's just like having your period.
Oh gosh.
And so that is what all of that
Yeah.
condensed, passed on to my mom. Biologically, it's not just our physical genes. What goes into your physical genes? Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, who you are. People think it's just, oh, brown eyes, brown hair. No.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. And the beautiful thing is you've broken that generational curse now for your lineage going forwards.
Yes.
It is so
Yes.
beautiful.
Totally.
So, what would you say to a woman who feels dismissed or unheard by the medical system?
Yeah. I would say if you don't feel like this is a person that you would put your life in their hands, which it should always be you, then it's the wrong person, right? It's the wrong person. And that's
Yeah,
what, especially when you put money into the picture. So I
yeah,
would say, again, returning to your inner authority to look at, of course, you want to seek out people and experts and education and guides who know what they're doing. So I would suggest looking into functional medicine, looking
yes.
into naturopathy, looking into pelvic floor physical therapy, which is
Right.
a lot of people don't realize that this is even like a that there's even a term or there's even a practitioner that helps women with a lot of these issues, but so much of the work with my actual physical muscular pain came from working with pelvic floor. So seeking out practitioners that are not just, your general practitioner or your OBGYN, not to say, not to demonize or villainize those people. There's
Mhm.
wonderful people out there, but unfortunately in the system that we're in, there's a lot of people that they're just not educated, and
Mhm.
the medical schools unfortunately have been bought by a lot of pharmaceutical companies. All you have to do is trace the money back. That could be a whole other episode. So it's a lot of times not even malicious, like it's their fault. They just aren't educated. They just aren't educated in the fact that, oh, when you eat these foods during this phase, or even nutrition at all. I think nutrition was completely wiped from the many medical programs, not even a
Mhm.
requirement.
It's such a pity.
Yeah, it is truly.
So, let me ask my last two questions, and they're a bit of a thought experiment. In the first question, I'm going to teleport you back, and we are going to go and have a conversation with a younger you, this young woman who was in excruciating pain for years, not knowing what to do, finding solutions, and struggling. If I could teleport you back to go and have a conversation with the younger you, what three nuggets of wisdom would you tell her based on what life has taught you up until this point?
What 3 lessons would I share with her? Was that the question?
Three nuggets of wisdom about
3 nuggets of wisdom if I could share with her. Totally get that now. Okay, 3 nuggets of wisdom. Your period is your power, is your superpower. Look at that. Look into your infradian rhythm, educate yourself. Educate yourself. Know the words that the doctors are using and know beyond that. So education, your period is your superpower. Number 2, I would say, your pain is your unrealized power. Your pain is a messenger. It's not, that something is wrong with you or broken about you. Listen, start befriending it. And number 3 is, I would say, you get to decide what healing is for you. You get to decide that, not someone in a lab coat. You get to decide what that looks like for you. And it doesn't have to fit into this certain test, or, this x-ray or this lab result. You get to decide how it looks and what you decide to do with it.
mm, you're really taking total control of your health. I love that. Now I'll teleport you into the future this time. And we are going to go and meet the 90-year-old you. And she's sitting in her rocking chair, surrounded by her children, her grandchildren, Whoever's going to be with you at the end. If we could go and sit with this wise woman who has led you up until this point, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
Thank you. I'd say thank you. Yeah. We've gone through so much, and I would just be grateful.
It's a very appropriate thing to say because she has led you up until this point. I love asking women that question because a lot of times women don't realize the wisdom is already in them. She's here, each and every one of us. It's when you tune into that energy of who you are becoming. She whispers, she tells you, go left, go right. This doesn't feel right. But a lot of women are so disconnected to their intuition, they have forgotten how to tune into that. So thank you for listening to your wise woman and using what she's taught you to empower so many other women as well going forwards. It's absolutely beautiful to see what you've done with your life.
Thank you so much for hosting this show and providing this platform for people to share. It's so necessary because nothing else is none of us would know about it without platforms like these.
It's true. When we share these stories to uplift, to inspire, to be the light at the end of the tunnel for someone who might be going through a similar challenge. So I'm really hoping that we'll reach a lot of women who have this condition, who can think about it differently. So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in. Like I said, the Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We're a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share these stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So if you are a woman who suffers from endometriosis, please know that there is hope. We have somebody chiming in online. Thank you, Sean. He says here, women have gone through so many evils and it makes me mad. I hate being a guy. Thank you, Sean. It's good to know that we have our allies who are also tuning into the show, chiming in and sharing their knowledge as well.
Yeah.
So I'll be back again tomorrow, everybody, with yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Meredith, thanks again for the interview.
Thank you.
Bye for now, everybody. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.